Before the Clearfield doctrine is explained in full, let's point out a few facts. Remember this very important point. He who alleges has the burden of proof. This works both ways. Your local magistrate's court and the Supreme Court are both businesses run for profit, not public authorities or public bodies for the people. Your local council, local member of parliament, and UK government are all businesses run for profit, not public authorities or public bodies for the people. Clearfield Doctrine. All courts were dissolved in 2008 under the Clearfield Doctrine, then became registered companies on Dun and Bradstreet Company Search. When governments enter the world of commerce, they are subject to the same burdens as any private firm or corporation. Note, under the Clearfield Doctrine, the courts are no longer government entities, in that they are demanding private monies and must have a contract with you to compel performance. They are no more special as a normal business than your local McDonald's restaurant. Clearfield Doctrine. When private commercial paper is used by corporate government, then government loses its sovereignty status and becomes no different than a mere private corporation. Government create and enforce civil laws known as statutes, acts and legislation, created by the Bar Association, set up by Rothschilds, which are duty-bound to comply with the law of contracts. The UK and USA governments and courts are businesses and have to follow rules and procedures set out by contract law. A contract has to be between two parties. There has to be an offer, acceptance, full transparency, and both be in agreement. Governments descend to the level of a mere private corporation and take on the characteristics of a mere private citizen. Where private corporate commercial paper and securities is concerned, for purposes of suits, such corporations and individuals are regarded as entities entirely separate from government. What the Clearfield Doctrine is saying is that when private commercial paper is used by corporate government, then government loses its sovereignty status and becomes no different than a mere private corporation. As such, government then becomes bound by the rules and laws that govern private corporations, which means that if they intend to compel an individual to some specific performance based upon its corporate statutes or corporation rules, then the government, like any private corporation, must be the holder in due course of a contract or other commercial agreement between it and the one upon whose demands for specific performance are made. And further, the government must be willing to enter the contract or commercial agreement into evidence before trying to get the court to enforce its demands, called statutes. This case is very important because it is a 1942 case that was decided after the United States Corporation Company filed its Certificate of Incorporation in the state of Florida, 15th July 1925. And it was decided after the corporate governments agreed to use the currency of the private corporation, the Federal Reserve. The private currency, the Federal Reserve note, is still in use today, as are the Bank of England notes. Corporations are not and can never be sovereign. They are not real. They are a fiction and only exist on paper. Therefore, all laws created by these government corporations are private corporate regulations called public law, statutes, codes, and ordinances to conceal their true nature. Do the judge and your lawyer know about this? You bet they do. Since these government bodies are not sovereign, they cannot promulgate or enforce criminal laws. They can only create and enforce civil laws, which are duty-bound to comply with the law of contracts. The contract law requires signed written agreements and complete transparency. Did you ever agree to be arrested and tried under any of their corporate statutes? For that matter, did you ever agree to contract with them by agreeing to be sued for violating their corporate regulations? Enforcement of these corporate statutes by local, state, and federal law enforcement officers are unlawful actions being committed against good, honest, sovereign living men and living women. These officers can be held personally liable for their actions. Our government is just another corporation. Knowledge is power.